So what's this whole Amazon UK thing? And should I sell on Amazon in the US like everyone else, or should I sell on Amazon in the UK? How do I sell on Amazon in the UK? And what about the rest of Europe? Guys, if you're wondering any of those things, then I guarantee you're gonna love this video because this one's for you. What's up guys, welcome to today's video. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Myles and I've sold nearly $2 million on Amazon in less than 2 years. Now, most of that has been on Amazon in the US, but I've also sold nearly 6 figures on Amazon in the UK and the rest of Europe. And given that this channel is all about helping you on your own journey to selling 6 or 7 figures on Amazon, I thought that this would be something that would be really helpful to you guys, because a lot of people are asking me about this actually. You know, where do I start? Is the UK a good place to sell? Should I start in the US or UK or whatever? Which one's more competitive? Which one's more saturated? So I thought I'd just lay it all out there, give you my honest experience, because I've been selling now in the UK for about a year and in the US for a bit over 18 months. So I've got experience in both. I won't sugarcoat it or bullshit you with anything. This will just be like how it's been for me, my strategy, and what you can take out of that if you choose to go into the US or the UK or wherever. So let's get started. So just to be completely clear, most of the money that I've made through Amazon has all been in the US. That's where I started. That's where I launched my original products. And that's where I've launched every new product that I've ever launched first. And then I've only ever moved products to the UK, those same products that I launched in the US, to the UK after I've sort of proven them in the US. So that's where I'm coming from with this. But you can see I started selling about a year ago, but it was really just like I sent a few test shipments in just to see what it was like and like, you know, get my account set up and all that. So I haven't really started focusing on it until, you know, this year sometime, and then I ran out of stock. You can see down there, and it's just finally now just starting to kick in. So I've gotten it up to, it's up to now 17K, and that's going up pretty much every day. That's not just in the UK. So I've got UK is about 10K, and then Germany 4K, and then the rest of those there. So you can see these here. And obviously the main one there is the UK, and that's what most people will find, is that most of your like sales potential will be in the UK. There's some in Germany as well. Now I'll talk about how that all fits in together, because this video is mostly about selling in the UK. But just know that. So basically you have like this potential to expand into the rest of Europe if you're looking at the UK, but that's going to be your main focus, is selling in that UK market. Okay, so what's my experience been selling in both of these markets? And if you ask me the question, should I sell on Amazon in the US or the UK? What's my answer? Well, really the main thing that I've noticed is that not many sellers have really like figured Amazon UK out. So that means a few things. Firstly, reviews are much easier to get in the UK. Now, I'm just gonna link you a video up here, which is basically a big major change that's been really happening in Amazon in the US in terms of reviews getting much harder to get, a lot of reviews being wiped from sellers, existing reviews being removed, and basically like people are really finding more and more that getting reviews when you're starting out is just becoming really difficult. And in some niches, that's a really big deal. In some others, it's really not that important. But if you're going into certain niches where it is important, then like some people are just stuck, some people are failing product launches, and you know, like the whole experience can turn into a failure because you can't get these reviews going. So in the UK, I found that reviews are much easier to get. Your like review rate, which is if you make 100 sales, how many of those sales will convert into a positive review? In the US, I find that that is, if you do nothing at all, you sell 100 units, you'll get about 1 review back. So that's obviously not very high. If you have an email autoresponder service that like prompts your customers to leave a review, then you might get a 2 or a 3% review rate. In the UK, I'm finding that by doing that same thing with the email autoresponder service, I use OnMaster, by the way, I'll leave a link down below. I'm getting around about 5 to 7%. So obviously that's around about double, and it makes a big difference. I've also noticed that the reviews are more positive. So while in the US, I'd probably say that my average review rate, which has pretty much all been organic reviews, is around about 4.3, 4.4. So that's like that 4.5 star mark. But in the UK, it's very close to a 5-star average. Customers just seem easy to please in general. And I think that goes hand in hand with my next point, which is that it's just lower competition. There are less people selling. Basically, like, you don't have to do as much to please your customer in the UK because there's less product selection for them to choose from. I don't actually know when Amazon launched in the UK, but I assume that it was well after the US, like, you know, like in very recent history. And so maybe people aren't as used to it. They don't take it for granted. I don't know what the reasons are. All I can say is that I found it to be much less competitive. So the UK is really nice for that because my strategy, my personal strategy for launching products, and this is just because of the way that I've been doing it, so don't take this as advice for yourself, but I've been launching products in the US, and then once I've proven them in the US, then I just send some to the UK. I don't do any product research at all. It's just, I've got this product, it's selling, I may as well ship some units to the UK. And so like a lot of these products, I might expect them to be duds in the UK, but they all kind of sell. Like maybe you have to adjust the price a little bit, but really I don't do much. When I'm sending those first products to the UK, I don't do any, I don't do any discounted giveaways. I don't even really lower my price. I tried it a few times, but like I couldn't be bothered because I'm focused on the US. So I've just put these products here with no reviews, full price, and just started some PPC. PPC, by the way, stands for pay per click advertising. And my next point is that those costs, the PPC costs, are lower, and the ACOS, which is the advertising cost of sale, is effectively a metric that measures how expensive your advertising is. And that's also lower. And that goes hand in hand, again, with it just being lower competition. So you can see the image that I'm trying to paint here. Basically, like, I really haven't been focusing on the UK and getting it to this point where it's selling, $10,000 a month. I haven't done much to get it there. Basically, it's the same products, chuck them up, and like they just kind of sell. So to me, that's a really, really nice thing. Now, what that essentially means is that if you want to do this properly, like yourself as a beginner launching your first product specifically on Amazon, it's going to be much, much easier to launch. What that means is do the same thing, and I'll talk about this in a sec, but just expect that like a lot of people, you'll go into Facebook groups and you'll see people having troubles with launches, like just not being able to get traction. The standard, the bar is set a lot lower in the UK. So realistically, if you do exactly the same things that you would do in the US and you do it in the UK instead, your chance of success is higher. And you're also going to have more stability over time, I've found. So like in the US, I've had certain products that I've launched them, they've made me a lot of money, and then probably because they make a lot of money, people see that they're making lots of money, and then they jump in. That means I get new competitors, and over the time, like the price can go down, and so the profit goes down, and it's just like unstable. And so I can't rely on one single product to be making me money for, like 2 years, 5 years, something like that. In the UK, I'm not as worried about that. I see it all as just kind of like being more constant, if you know what I mean. Basically, if I want to sum all of this up for you, I would say that you can afford to be a little bit more lazy in the UK. I don't recommend that you take this like lazily. This is like a business like anything else. I recommend you do it properly. But that room for error, the margin where you can like, not get things perfectly, I think you've got a bit more room to play and a bit more like breathing space in the UK than in the US. But there is definitely a negative. There's always a negative, and always like for every plus, there's always a minus. So what I have to say is that you can't sell the same products that you would expect to sell in the US. And all I mean by that is that it's just a much, much smaller marketplace. So sales volume is going to be much lower. So if you use exactly the same criteria in the US as you do in the UK, you get almost completely different product results. And the last one, I think, is something that probably really does turn a lot of people off selling in the UK, and that's VAT, or value added tax. That's basically a sales tax that I think most countries in the world apply some sort of VAT, but in the UK, you have to deal with it as a seller. Now, some people will tell you that you don't. I'm going to talk about this a bit in the next section, but they're probably wrong. Now, anyway, in conclusion, should you sell in the UK or the US? As you can see, it's pluses and it's minuses. If you want to just be lazier and like maybe you want to do this as like a side project over a year or something, and you just, you don't want to focus all of your efforts on getting this right, getting everything right in the product research phase, finding the right supplier, launching correctly in the US, all of those things are incredibly important. And I don't want to understate their importance if you're selling in the UK as well. But again, you just have a little bit more room to play, a little bit more breathing room. And so if you don't want this to sort of like be a really stressful experience, then maybe the UK is a better option. However, I'm happy that I started in the US. I'm happy that I got things right there where there's more money to be made using the same products. You can make that money. And then what I did, I think, was a good way of doing it, which was start in the US and then go to the UK. But be aware that like in the US, you kind of have to throw yourself into it, at least in comparison. The UK is more chill. So then, if you do want to sell in the UK, how do you sell in the UK? This is like a really long topic, but basically follow the same process as if you were selling in the US, more or less. So for your product research, follow the same process that you otherwise would. If somebody's taught you how to do it in the US, then you know how to do it in the UK. All you're doing is, instead of going to amazon.com, go to amazon.co.uk, still use Jungle Scout, still use Viral Launch, still use those extensions, your keyword research and your product research tools. But again, you'll find different products. So for example, if you're looking for a product that is selling on average on page 1, 500 units, then this baking tray in the UK is only selling 314, so that wouldn't meet that criteria. But if we go and look at the exact same product in the US, then we're getting an average monthly sales on page 1 of 1,874, which is 5 times as much. So product research can be done in the same way, following the same process, but your results will be different. Now, what you have to do when you're looking at product research in the UK is remember to include VAT in the profit calculations. So if I go back to the UK website, let's pick an example. I don't know, this one, Get Goods, that 18.95 pounds, that's not what the seller's making. They're taking that, and then 20% of that 18 pounds and 95 cents is going straight to the UK government in terms of VAT sales tax. So you just need to take that off, and what you'll see is that margins might look a little bit lower after doing that, but that's okay. Just don't forget to take away the 20% VAT. So the next steps in the process are the same. Supplier sourcing, you're still going to go to Alibaba or use 1688. Still do all of that in the same way. But again, you're just going to be shipping to the UK. Now, I haven't really noticed any real significant differences to talk about here, other than that it takes a little bit longer and it's a little bit more expensive. So again, as long as you know that and you can factor those costs in, there's no real difference. Optimizing the listing, I would say that maybe like certain keywords will be done differently. So if you're looking at something in the US, people in the UK might call it something slightly different. Obviously there's spelling differences, things like that. But again, the process is the same. So if you go on YouTube and you watch product listing tutorials, you can follow along with that exactly as you would if you were selling in the US. And the last step is launching the product. So like I said, I've been lazy. I haven't launched my products really in the UK. All I've done is just put them out there, no reviews, PPC, full price, and just let them go. And I think that's probably why I've had slow growth, but that's been okay for me. Again, just do this launch process as you would. If somebody's taught you to do it in the US, you can do it in the UK. Viral Launch, for example, they mainly work in the US, but they also have a section that can arrange product launches for you in the UK if that's what you want to do, or you can use PPC or whatever else. So that process is really the same as long as you realize that you need to include VAT, and a few of those costs will be different, and you're also going to be looking at a different set of products, completely different products. And so once you've gone through that process, the only other things you need to consider, again, are VAT, so important. You have to register for it, otherwise you'll be in trouble. The only exception is if you are a UK registered company, you have like a VAT free threshold. So I can't remember what that is. I think it's like £100,000 or something like that, or maybe $100,000. Up until that point, you can just get on there and start selling. So if you're planning on selling less than $100,000, then maybe you want to go through that process of actually registering in the UK. I haven't done that, so I can't tell you more about that at this stage. But if you're a US based or an Australian based or from anywhere else in the world selling into the UK, which you can do easily, but then you need to register for VAT in the UK. So that will cost you a few $1,000s. Like that's like fixed costs in terms of registering for your VAT and then filing every quarter. That's a bit more of a complicated process, topic for another video, I suppose, but just be aware that you will have to do it. And finally, I'll just say it again, remember to include that VAT in your profit calculations, because otherwise that comes straight out of your profit margin. All right, and the last thing that I want to talk about is how about the rest of Europe? So this has been UK that I've talked about so far, but if we look at this graph, you can see the blue line, UK, that's 10K in sales, and then I've also made, I would say, what's that, 7K across the rest of Europe. So that's not bad. That's been really, really low effort. So the main thing that you need to know is that it's super, super easy. Once you've launched products in the UK, it's super easy to sell those same products from the UK into those other 4 marketplaces. So that's particularly Germany, but also France, Italy, and Spain. And the way that you do that is by using the European Fulfillment Network. Now that's part of Amazon FBA. Basically, you're sending your products into the UK, selling in the UK as per normal. But then what Amazon can do, and I'll show you using a nice little diagram, is use their European fulfillment network. So what happens is you send your products into the UK there, you've got your listing selling, your product selling in the UK, all normal, and then all you need to do is actually activate these listings in Germany, Italy, France, and Spain. And then once they're activated, the goods, Amazon will send your goods automatically from the UK to all of those countries. So essentially, you don't need to do anything else. All you need to do is get those listings up. Now, I found, you can see my sales here, oops, here in Germany. That's like nearly 5K a month through doing pretty much nothing. All you have to do is translate those listings. So obviously, they speak different languages, so that's a bit of a hassle getting each one done. So that's 4 per product. Each listing to translate costs you about $20. You can get it done on Fiverr or on Upwork.com. And like, that's it. Again, I've done the same process, so I haven't really done any launching in each marketplace because, you know, there's a lot of them, so it's hard to manage. So I just put them out there. I just put the listings up and let them sell. And they have been selling, and that's making me extra money through no extra effort of my own. So I really like that, actually. But if you want to focus on just one, you for some reason don't want to do this, then the UK definitely. Germany as well is really worth a look at, as long as you can go through that translation process. And the other ones are just like, you know, nice extra profit per month. The final thing that I wanted to say about Amazon Europe is don't use Pan EU. So, Pan FBA. So what that is this. So you actually send your goods into the UK, and then there'll be an option if you want to sell in the other countries. There's an option to do Pan European FBA. And then what will happen is Amazon will send your goods as it needs them. It'll send them to FBA warehouses in these other countries. Now that sounds really nice because then obviously it can be shipped faster to the customers, it's better experience, it's a bit cheaper too, but don't do that. Do not do that. Or what will happen is when you send goods to those countries, you'll actually trigger VAT requirements in every country where you have those goods stored. And what that means is the tax man in Europe will eat your pants. So until you really want to do that, you're sending heaps of goods to all of those countries, do not do Pan EU FBA. Stick to this one, and all you have to do, send your goods into the UK, have the product listings translated, and then you can just start selling without doing anything. All right, guys, so that's really all there is to it. I hope this has simplified things for you. If you're wondering whether to sell in the US or the UK, and how to sell in the UK, and what about the rest of Europe, I hope this has given you a bit more clarity on that. Obviously, it's not black and white. You have to just think about what you want to be doing yourself, what your priorities are. But I'm very happy to have made the decision to be selling into Europe and specifically the UK. I'm also going to be growing that, so it's at $17,000 a month now, and by the end of the year, I'd like to be around 30. Maybe during Q4, I'll maybe even hit $50,000 in that 1 month. We'll see, not sure, but I'll keep you guys updated. Thanks so much for watching, and guys, if you found this valuable, please do hit that like button. I would love it, and if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. The next video is coming right up. I'll see you there.